So you know what will warm you up on a cold day is smashing your hand with a hammer right on the side of your knuckle. See that knot? Ah, that hurts. Good morning. Another Oklahoma day. Now in the background, it looks like it's pretty nice outside. It's not bad, but it's went from 70s down to the 40s real quick. And we had a frost on the last couple nights, so it's been pretty chilly, but it's going to give you guys an update of what I'm working on right now. The motorhome. Now, if you guys watched the previous video of the last time I really did anything with that, it broke down like 20 miles from home after going down to New Orleans and back. It's kind of like sputtering out a little bit on the highway and it would die. Well, I've narrowed that down to maybe a fuel pump. I know the fan clutch is bad, and that's a new part and it's already failed. No surprise there. And then what else? Oh, the hot cable. The solenoid went bad from the extra cranking, but I got the hiccups, I'm sorry. But the hot cable, or the positive cable that goes from that solenoid to the starter, is about almost 5 foot long. And I'm thinking it's got some corrosion, and I think it's drawing a lot of resistance. So, but what I was gonna do is I'm gonna pull the doghouse, because I couldn't get the doghouse off because one of the little bolts or whatever you call in the body had broken, spun. So I cut that off yesterday, and I'm gonna pull the doghouse real quick, but I gotta pull the passenger seat out to get the doghouse out and out of the way. Because what I wanna check is, anytime you have something that's doing 3,000, 3,500 RPMs on the highway for hours on end, you're going to get some vibration issues where things get loose. Well, if you saw, again, the carburetor came loose and it got a vacuum leak. While it's only on these vans, you're only able to tighten up. You can't get to anything in the back without removing the doghouse. So I tightened the front bolts, couldn't do anything with the back. So we're just going to go over everything. I haven't had the doghouse off in probably 3 years. Because when I first got it, I did a full tune-up on it, everything, and I put it back on. I didn't have to mess with it anymore. So it has not been off in quite some time. So we're going to check like the carburetor, make sure the base gasket isn't messed up. And I'm going to check the coil, because I put one of those aftermarket like Pertronics drop-in pickup coils in the bottom, and check the springs and all that stuff. The distributor's in great shape, but I'm wondering also if the coil might be getting hot and starting to break down and everything. So, and I may just go ahead and change it, because like I said, it's not that much. A fuel pump, a cable, and a coil. I could do that, because we're getting ready to, I think we're going to take another little trip and just kind of get out of here for a little bit. Got to do some family stuff here. We've been too busy and working too hard. So I think we're going to go somewhere during Thanksgiving or whatever is the plan. It might change, I don't know. But the Scout, I got to get a sheet metal brake and some panels. So I'm just the weather's changed. A few things have changed I've been taking care of. The K5 is almost running and ready to go, but the transmission, I had to take it back to the guy who built it because the front pump had an issue or whatever. So he's working that out. I'm really kind of sitting until that's done. The front seats of the Blazer, the guy that I bought all the Scout stuff from, the engine transmission, he does some upholstery work. He just finished those up. I'll be picking those up next week. So right now, aside from just cleaning up around the house, I figure it'd be a great time to jump on this motorhome and clean it, try to get these things fixed and get it ready in case we decide to take a little trip and get out of here. So Okay, so this is not supposed to be going like this. The bolt's not supposed to go in that tight. I don't remember it being that tight when I put it in, but it might have. So yeah. Somebody had a quick trip donut the other day. And some Whataburger. I have been driving this kind of regularly, but let's, there we go. Something popped. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, we got something loose. Snapped it off. So now I'm going to have to drill that out to put a bolt in it. So another thing I thought was happening was maybe the distributor got loose and this thing maybe took out or pulled some timing. But usually with the way that turns, if my mind's right, is when the engine's running, your rotor bug's twisting like that. Well, just the rotational force, if it's loose, will want to retard the timing, and it would definitely kill some power on this thing and then start popping through the carburetor. But that's not the problem. It's just when the engine, when you shut it off, when it's hot, and it'll run, you know, like it's got too much timing. And I'm really thinking it's that cable. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit these bolts back here. Let's see if I can't get these tightened up some. A little loose, but not bad. I probably should be using a socket, but I didn't feel like getting that stuff out. So yeah, I know the front bolts, they were quite loose. Okay, that's pretty tight. So let's get this air cleaner off. I know the lid seems like it's pretty stuck on there. Don't tell me. There we go. I was about to say, I'm pretty sure I put an air filter in it, but if you talk to my buddy Jerry, he'll start giving me a hard time because I usually don't change the air filter on them. For some reason, I just forget about it, but yes, I did when we... So 3 years, that's not bad. That's pretty clean. It's going to stay there. So far, everything I'm seeing looks good. Besides that broken bolt that's in the body now that I got to contend with. But maybe a little valve cover leak. I'm not going to fix that. Not going to fix it till I have big puddles on the ground. So, ooh, another dirt dauber's nest. You turkeys. And that's with me driving. I drive this thing once a week, whether it needs it or not. And these turkeys have been getting in there just trying to live. Not today. Not today. So upon first glance, I've looked this thing over pretty good, tightened a few things up. I don't feel that there's anything that I can see just blatantly looking at it that would cause this problem. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do next is I'm going to start the engine up. Man, there's another dirt dauber's nest still. Goodness. I'm going to start it up and just spray some like brake clean well, I got brake clean. That's all I've got right now. I'm going to spray that around the engine while it's running, and we'll see if we hear any vacuum leaks. All right, so here we go. Let's see if it hits. A little cold natured. It's crazy to think the engine's sitting there running right next to your feet. All right, let's take it. Oh, a little bit of. It's really not picking up any. I don't think we got any vacuum leaks. Vacuum pole right there. No, I don't think we have any leaks at all. That is a good thing. Maybe picked up just a stove. Not really. I don't know. I think I may go ahead and change this coil. But the problem I see is that slow starting. Let's see what it does. See, it had that hesitation, that rump. This thing should start quicker than that. All right. You hear that? Yeah, it was like, whoa, whoa, they shouldn't do that. So I could I could take some timing out of it, but I'm really pretty happy where the timing's at. And like I said, I actually have never adjusted it. I probably should put a light on it, but just judging by the way the engine runs, it runs great. It doesn't detonate. I think it's right where it needs to be. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that cable off and call it good under here. So you know what will warm you up on a cold day is smashing your hand with a hammer right on the side of your knuckle. See that knot? Ah, that hurts. So yeah, the bit broke off in the bolt I'm trying to draw out, so I just got a punch and a hammer, but the floor flops too much, and I hit my hand with a hammer. That just, that's gonna feel good later. So after going up a few bit sizes, we are drilled out. We got our new bolt. Just put some taps on the bottom, but I think that'll work. I'm gonna slip the doghouse back on for right now to keep critters out of here. But I think I'm gonna change this coil and I'm gonna pull that hot cable off. So if you guys have been following along, we had that storm blow in on Father's Day. Well, I had to get the roof on and all the electricity was down. So I wanted to go get a Honda generator, but God almighty, you talk about that's a lot of money. And so I had to go 3 different times to Harbor Freight because they sold out of everything. So I finally found one of these about 50 miles away and had to fly over there and get it. But this thing has came in handy so well because I got just about that whole roof put back on with this thing. So let's go in here. I've got a plug that is supposed to go in conjunction with that wire there. It's in here somewhere. There we go. RV adapter. Let's undo that real quick. Bring it with us. Get these drawers shut up. All right. So yeah, we're gonna find out if this thing's gonna run the power. So 30 amp twist lock RV adapter. All right, so here's the adapter. There's the plug. So I'm guessing, let's go ahead and stick her in there. And then on the front, get a little bit more slack there. And that needs to go in there a little bit further. Ah, there we go. Tight connections, that's what we want. Let's see here. Belt and tube. Is it twist? Yeah, it must be there. All right, so let's go ahead and kick this bad boy. I have not started this in a while. So it's kind of like a choke. If you pull it all the way up to run, it'll probably die. Probably should have checked the gas too. We're gonna let that sit there and run. Putting out 124. I don't know if you guys can see it. Let's go kick everything on. All right, let's kick our breakers on. Uh-oh, I hear a little bit of load. All right. If anything, that thing needed to be ran anyways. The refrigerator. Oh, crap. I haven't cleaned this out since my grandpa stayed over here during that storm, so we've got plenty of BIA in here. Yeah, this refrigerator's running. Okay, let's really put the load to it now. Let's kick her on high. Let's just go ahead and, oh yeah, it's pulling. Let's go see what it's doing. All right, it's doing it. And man, I tell you what, this thing's not loud at all. Like if anything, this thing running, it could help me sleep. So let's just let this thing run for a little bit. So I was thinking, you know, I hate throwing parts at something just changing parts and hoping it works. We got 1 week till we take off, and I really haven't found out why this thing was messing up, when we were coming home. And the problem I was having was like when you were running about 65, it would be like, tut, 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 it'd act like, first, to me, it acted like it was the ignition coil breaking down. Well, cruising good, and then it was every time we would slow down, stop, truck would keep running, but as we would accelerate, the truck would it act like it was bogging out. And so I was like, okay, it's got to be the coil, because usually the pickup coil on the bottom of the HEI, it's like a switch. It either works or it doesn't. Well, with the coils, they break down and they will start messing up and everything. So I was thinking about that, but then I was like, well, it would probably do it at any RPM. And this main issue was when I was accelerating, the truck would just bog and die. And then, like, for some reason, it wouldn't want to start back. And that's where, like, it's kind of got me baffled. But I've driven this, and I think I've got about 250 miles on it since that trip. It has not skipped one beat yet, and it kind of makes you gun shy when you're going on a trip like that. And I was like, well, I'll just run it and take the parts with me and fix it on the side of the highway. Well, it still has the fuel pump that was on it when I got it, and I've had this since 2019, and it's 2020, almost 2024 now. So I've got the pump here. I think I'm just going to change it, and then I'll stop and buy a good coil and just take it with me, because I can change that coil. I'll have to pull the seat and the doghouse back off. But that's a lot easier messing with some gasoline and everything. So I'll do half of it, but then I think I'll just go, and if it starts doing it again, I'm pretty sure I'll isolate it down to the coil. And I think we burnt up the starter cylinder when we kept trying to start it. We just broke down in the worst possible spot I've ever broken down in my life, and it was a bad experience. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and do this fuel pump, and then tomorrow we're gonna run, it's about 75 miles away, pick up my seats from Drew, and then I think that'll put about 180 miles on the motorhome, and we'll just do like a loop in northeastern Oklahoma, and I'll just run it hard, and hopefully we can get it to have that problem tomorrow. That way I can fix it before we take off next Monday night. So let's change this pump. And I'm not sure if you guys can see it or not, but that's the beauty of this thing, is everything. There's the fuel pump right there. I mean, it's so easy to get to, really. And it'd be easy to fix on the road, but I just, I think it'd be better now just to go ahead and swap it. I'm just hoping this new one's not a cheap made piece of junk. But yeah, I think it'd be better to do in my yard than on I-40 or I-55 in Mississippi, Louisiana. And it's going to more than likely happen in a bad spot. So let's go ahead and change this and just have that peace of mind. So apparently I didn't get the memo that working on these vans is kind of a pain. You almost need 3 hands to get under here and do this. But the issue I'm having is, if you look at this fuel line, and the outlet for the carburetor is that's a bit crooked, and that's not adjustable. So I'm going to have to probably remove this line and cut it and do some trickery to it, because if I twist it that way, and I may be able to twist it, but it's probably going to rest against that bottom radiator hose, and it's going to transfer heat into the fuel line, and we do not want that. That will be one of those vapor locking situations. So I'm going to try to pull that line off, come up here to the carburetor, the old Quadrajet. I don't know if you can see, that light's pretty bright, sunshine. But yeah, we're gonna pull it off right there and try to take it out. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to modify this fuel line. So this bow that they've put in it, for me to hook that up and hook it up correctly, I'm gonna have to remove that. So I'm gonna cut this and cut it here and just use a piece of rubber hose. And not the best way, only way I can figure out how to do it though. Good morning, guys. am I glad that I decided to go ahead and put this fuel pump on. My original deal was I was just going to throw the parts in the motorhome and just take off and let it start acting up again once we get several hundred miles in and try to figure the problem out. Well, the more I thought about it, I was like, well, I got a little time. I'm going to at least throw the fuel pump on, change the ignition coil. I have to pull the doghouse back off and everything, and just, do that and kind of get ahead of the curve on it. Well, what I ran into, and I'm going to show you what I got here. So I am so glad I decided to put this fuel pump on, because this has turned into kind of a pain in the butt. The problem is the way this orientation is on the bottom of the fuel pump here. It's clocked one way, and when I've changed the lines and all that kind of stuff when I first got it, they were for this configuration. Well, the new fuel pump, these outlets are slightly turned the other way. Well, there's no way you can twist or adjust that I know of. And so what I had to do is I've had to redo some of my hoses, but I've kind of got something that made me believe I might have found the problem why this thing was running and choking out and dying. So if you look right there, the orientation is completely twisted around the other way. It's probably, I don't even know how you say it, just it's in a different spot. Before it was like it was at the 3 o'clock position, and then all the outlets turned to like the 6 o'clock position. We'll use that as a reference. But if you see what this hose is doing, you see how that's kinked? So it's, good rule of thumb is for every 45 and 90 that you have in like your fuel system, you add a few feet of resistance. So what's going on here now, I put these hoses on this thing back probably 4 years. As soon as I got it, I changed a section of the fuel line and redid a bunch of this stuff because it was all cracked and it was leaking and everything. But this thing yesterday was so soft when it was warm out here that I'm wondering as I've been driving, is if this thing was it's already pinched and restricted, as you can see right there, if this is getting sucked flat by the fuel pump, because that's the suction side of that, and it would be real easy to suck that flat and choke this motor out. So what I did is I got some more 3/8 fuel line. I may have to pull this line out and put a little bit more of a bend on it. I don't know what I'm going to do. And then also the vapor return line, it wasn't gasoline specific, and it was hard as a rock, and I think it was falling apart. So I blew that line back into the tank, and we're going to try to see if we can get that changed. Now, I had to redo this line too, and the thing I'm wanting to do is make sure it is not touching anything that's going to transfer any heat, which it's already, I think, touching the block, and it's trying to touch the alternator up there. So yeah, I'm trying to get that bent up right. So this is turning, like if I had to do this on the side of the road, this would have been a nightmare. This would have been absolutely a nightmare. So I'm so glad that I decided to do this before we embarked on this journey again. So that's what I'm working on right now. So let's get after it. So we've made some progress. We got the fuel system completely redone. I made a few alterations to what it was that I'm kind of surprised that I didn't do in the first place a long time ago. Let's check it out. I'm not for sure if you guys can see, but back here, and I knew about it, but you, like I said, forget. This thing, somebody is putting an electric fuel pump in line. So what I started with is I disengaged the fuel pump up there. I disengaged it from this, and I blew back and forth through these lines so it didn't have a restriction. I also blew through the pump to the tank, which had some resistance, but when I would suck through it with the pump off, it was as free flowing as can be, and I got a lot of gas. But what was here was a really old piece of hose that was looped all the way around. Let me back up a little bit. So it was looped all the way up here. I don't know why I didn't change that, because I've had this tank out before, and I've changed that piece of hose, and that one's kind of old. That's that vapor return, but that should be okay. But it was looped up. Well, for every 45 and 90, add several feet of resistance to this. So what I did is I came up here and cut some of the steel line out, and I made it more of a straight shot for that supply line to go to the fuel pump. So it seemed like it made sense to me to take some of that big loop out of it to make it be able to draw better. So seems like it will work better. Got rid of that crappy old rotten hose that was on it, put that in there. So we did that, and now to the front. Went ahead and got the pump, put some new hoses on it up here. It is making a loop, but it's not crimped like it was. And it's, of course, all the new fuel line and everything. That's on. I've started it. It ran, or it runs. It runs really good. Then moved on to the fan clutch was really loose on here. I'm not for sure if you'll be able to see, but I installed a heavy-duty fan clutch. So there's that, because it was kind of running warmer than it usually does when we were coming back. So the next move is I went ahead and pulled the seat in the doghouse back out. And I think I'm going to change, because when I tuned this thing up when I first got it about 4 years ago, I put plugs, new MSD wires that I had to build myself. I put a Excel pickup module in the bottom of the distributor. Also put a new cap and all that, but I'd never changed. I reused the factory coil. Pretty sure I did. So what I'm going to do, I went and bought, they had 3 coils at O'Reilly's. They had a Master Pro, this Blue Streak one, which is like $15 more, and the Excel Super Coil. Well, I decided to go with this one because it's a little bit more expensive, and that Excel Super Coil. I just didn't feel like I needed that. So I'm going to go ahead, going to take this apart, change that coil out, check the rotor bug and all that kind of stuff. That, I can't find any vacuum leaks on it. I don't know what would make it run and do like what it was doing. And so far I've been driving this thing 20 miles, 25 miles one way, 25 back. It's not even cut. This is before I've done any of this stuff to it. So like, I don't know. And this all started happening after it was running continuously for like 12, 13, 14 hours. You know, this motor's doing 3,500 RPMs at 65 miles an hour. So, I mean, we're running it pretty hard. And so that's the only things I can think of that would make the drivability do what it's doing. You know, like I said, there's no restrictions in the fuel system now. The only thing is if that pump goes out, and I'm going to pick up another one on the way. But yeah, that's the only thing I could think could happen on this is that coil. They start breaking down. It should cut out and pop, but I just remember coming up, I don't remember if that was 420 or 415 coming into Little Rock when it started doing the boom, 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 boom. And to me, it just seemed electronic. But then again, you never know. Because the next thing when it started dying is when we would get stopped and try to accelerate and put the load on this thing and it would just die out. And that seemed like fuel to me. So, I don't know. I wanted to get on the road and like just see what it does and start trying to change stuff. But to me, it just seems better to get this out of the way. So, like I said, we got beautiful weather right now. It's got free time. Let's just do it. So I misinterpreted myself. This still has a factory style pickup module, but it looks like it's got an aftermarket Excel coil. So what I'm going to do is go get a brand new, might be Protronics or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and change that out. But I'm also going to change the coil as well. So broke the ice and got about 120 miles away. We're in Arkansas. Getting ready to check the oil in this thing. We're going to hit the road. But look at this rig, man. It's an 80s model Ford diesel. That's pretty cool. But yeah. Now that's a diesel, like 80s model van. And he's pulling a camper and a car. I thought that was pretty cool to have the two sitting there side by side. And it's got Oregon plates on it. But how cool. Yeah, put me down here in one of these boat houses with a boat. Ah. If I win the lottery and I'm not working on cars, this is where I'm going to be. Well, it probably wouldn't float very good. Look at that scenery, Ruby. It's beautiful.
Oh, I wish
I bet you do. There's a lot of alligators in that, though. No, we're not going in. Woo! Picking up the wifey at the airport. This Thanksgiving jam is a mess.
Hey, Daddy, Uncle says it's Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
Is it Thanksgiving tomorrow?
Yep, it's Thanksgiving tomorrow. Woo! We're going to test the cooling system of the motorhome. We are not doing bad. You holding in there, kid?
Yep.
I think I'm going to get over here to the side because Mama's walking on out at 10 and 11. So far, we're the only old motorhome, Ruby, in line. What do you got to say about that? I don't see anything old up here. Let's keep waiting. So the old motorhome had 52,000-ish miles on it, and it's 62,925. So by the time we make it back to Tulsa, we're going to be over 63,000. Maybe even close to 64. Ruby suggested we just ram into people and push them out of the way, but little does she know we barely have enough power to move this thing, so.
Just crash into the car to break the glass.
Break the glass? Okay. Where's she at? There you are. Your chariot awaits. Complimentary mud and all. There's the Superdome. Cruising the French Quarter. I found some of the good stuff right here. Matt, I'm hooking you up. You can either like the fire or the regular. But yeah, that's fire, dude. What's up?
Videoing?
Yes. Showing this fine automobile in this big, beautiful city
Hey,
where all the
Mommy.
action is.
Mom, can we go to a park?
Well, where we're staying.
Figured we'd look at the old cemetery tombstones. Oh, wow. Like the one you see on the CSI shows.
And come look at this.
Okay.
You can see how family name passed down just in this one. Okay, so you have a Timothy in 1873. Then you have a Timothy in 1901. Then you have a Timothy in 1914. And then look at, there's Mary in 1902, Mary in 1928, then Mary in 1954, Mary in
Wow.
1975. And there's two Gertrudes.
Mom, now we're going to go look at that statue. Who's that?
Two Timothys. So you can see how family names.
If you ever want to know what Lake Pontchartrain looks like, came down on the west side on Highway 55, and now we're crossing the causeway to head into Vanderbilt. It says it's like 27 miles across this bridge. Not bad. All right, quick update on the camper. So far, so good. Only issues I've had is it's got these roof vents on the top, and I think the wind from a semi swooped around in it and broke one of them, so I'm gonna have to put in a new one of those. But I got in some mud in Mississippi. But one thing I noticed that I'm having some issues with is I think we're getting ready to lose a seal in the power steering box. See how it's wet? It's starting to get a drip underneath it. I don't know if you guys can see that. But yeah, the power steering is leaking. And it does operate the Hydro Boost on this thing. So you'll still have brakes, but it just won't feel as good. Uh-oh. Oh shit. Backed over a bush. Let's get out of here. But yeah, so far so good. I'm pretty happy with it. Pretty cool little motorhome. I've been sleeping in this since Monday, and it is now Friday. Just had a good brunch. We're in Hammond, Louisiana. The sun has finally came out. Now we have to go home. This is the part I always don't like, is having to go home. Ah! Ooh, look at that beauty. Trans Am. Pretty cool stuff. Man, if you guys are ever rolling out through Brookhaven, Mississippi, come to the old Coke plant. I don't know if you can see back here. This is probably, I'm not a big gas station food guy, but this is probably the best gas station food I've got my hands on. They had these like fried green tomatoes and fried chicken on a stick. And they got some good tea too, so it's like, holy moly. And me and my wife had told ourselves that we were gonna do like good and we're not gonna eat any more junk. We'll start after this one. So far we have only got like 80 miles down. So still, this thing, a 3-speed automatic and 410 gears, sucks. But we're still cruising 60, 65. So we're just hearing that engine labor, just not a huge fan, but yeah, nice weather though. It's a bummer because as we keep climbing back up, we're just getting colder and colder. It was like 60 some degrees this morning when we left Mandeville, and it's getting colder, so onward. All right, guys, we made it home. I'm gonna do another video next of what all broke on this, problems we had. I'm gonna clean it up. And then I had actually had something bad happen to this that I'll show you guys in the next video that almost got me in trouble. So if you like what we're doing, man, hit that subscribe. Like I said, I'm just gonna keep doing these things, and I'm not done with this thing at all yet. So having a good time. Thank you guys.